Welcome all in, everybody, to another edition of the unofficial WCC Hoops podcast. I'm Zach Farmer. That's Thomas Dunn. And we've got a lot to recap through the course of what happened over the weekend. We'll be previewing the matchups coming up on Wednesday this week. We'll be talking with Pacific head coach Dave Smart, as well as his fourth place Tigers are in the heat of it and are going to be looking to accomplish something that hasn't happened for the Tigers in a while, to get to that quarterfinal round, be that 4 seed, because that's kind of the next grab. There's 1, 2, 3 with Gonzaga, St. Mary's, and Santa Clara, and then there's Pacific and the Pack right after that. So we'll get into that with him in just a bit. But before we get started, be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are watching the show. But of course, we have to start off with what happened at the Levy Center on Saturday, where Gonzaga reclaimed the top spot in the WCC with their win over Santa Clara. And I mean, I think this game went a lot pretty expectedly, though kind of the way this kind of battled out. Santa Clara was in it the entire way through. This was not an embarrassing performance by any stretch. I think this was a overall better performance than what we saw from Santa Clara in the game at the Kennel a few weeks back. But late in this one, what struck me the most was just Gonzaga's poise and composure in that road environment, the sellout crowd at the Levy Center, and being able to get a win without maybe some of their better players on the floor.
Yeah, I think first, full credit to the Zags for eventually fighting hard enough to get around the hump and kind of keep Santa Clara at bay down the stretch. I think probably the sequence that won't get enough shine within the grand scope of all of this is when Graham McKay went to the bench with 4 fouls with 7 minutes to go, came back in with 3, and the gap was still a 7-point lead for Gonzaga. So like that was kind of one of the final nails in the coffin. And I think when you look at it from a Broncos perspective, too many guys ended up making their imprint on this game. Graham Ike is Graham Ike. There's a reason why he's going to be the favorite right as of right now to be the WCC Player of the Year. I mean, that was a Player of the Year performing first half, just about on the cusp of a double-double. Was owning the paint, and the team as a whole was owning the paint to the tune of 66 points in the paint for the Zags over the course of the night. Broncos really just they couldn't defend inside the arc, and then at least for me, the one pain point where more than anything that stood out is Gonzaga had so many second chance opportunities, especially in that first half. Emmanuel Innocenti, Tyon Grant Foster, all just flying in for offensive rebounds. And even I think back to the sequence in the first half, Innocenti gets a tip in off a missed free throw. Like that can't happen if you're Santa Clara. You just got to find a way to get a body on a body at some point. And that was really one of the big reasons why they didn't have the lead at the end of the first half. They had played good enough basketball to earn it, but didn't box anybody out. And at some point, you just got to get it, like I mentioned, get a body on a body, and that was really a big pressure point all the way throughout those 40 minutes. Broncos eventually taking that 5-point lead, forcing that Mark Few timeout, but then more Tyon Grant Foster, and then eventually Davis Fogel getting in on the party, and then Adam Miller closing it out. So for me, good balance by the Zags, and conversely, the Broncos didn't defend the paint well enough, didn't rebound well enough, and let too many guys eventually get loose to make their imprint on the game. They played hard. They played hard enough to win. They played in spurts good enough to win, but ultimately I don't think played smart enough to win when it came down to it. It's just they didn't win any of the margins where they had to.
I mean, there's something to be said about being in the situation and practicing in the situation. And Santa Clara has not been in a lot of these high leverage situations with the amount of pressure that kind of went into Saturday. I mean, we talked about it, and there's no way that there was some of the noise did not get into the locker room about this being for first place, this being potentially the way that they can lock up an NCAA tournament bid, the fact that they could, again, take control of being the potential conference champion with a win over Gonzaga. Like there's so many like things you can kind of think about going toward the end of this game. And you mentioned just like some of the other pieces that stepped up for the Zags. I mean, I think the one that jumps out the most is going to be very clearly Adam Miller and the performance that he had throughout the course of, especially that second half against Santa Clara, because I mean, he has been I don't think he's really kind of been that offensive weapon that they really hoped he would be over the large course of the season. And we saw it come through on Saturday, one of his better offensive performances of the season. I think he was he jumped out late in that one. Also, just kind of like the way Gonzaga swarmed the Santa Clara ball handlers and forced the issue. A couple of those turnovers. I mentioned David Vogel, just like Davis Vogel, just that 2-play sequence that he had where he is able to get the drive-in layup and then immediately steals not on the initial inbound, but the second pass off that inbound and is able to get an easy layup for that one. I mean, the Zags took advantage of some miscues from Santa Clara, and obviously, like, that was kind of the difference in this one. Jalen Worley also left with what looked like a little bit of an injury, and we know he's been kind of battling some hamstring injuries for the last week plus. So the fact that he also wasn't on the floor, and Adam Miller had to kind of step in and play a little bit heavier minutes than we're used to seeing him. Davis Vogel playing a little in a different role than what we're used to seeing him as well. I thought this was a kind of tournament quality game. This was high level all the way through. Gonzaga played like you would expect a tournament team to play. Someone who knows how to do this, has been here before, and they acted like the team who's been there before.
They played with the right sense of controlled desperation, I think, more than anything. That's kind of what stands out. You mentioned what happened with the Jalen Worley, and it's really been an extension of all the injuries he's been facing. I think it was prior to the Portland game where he started to feel the effects of getting dinged up. I forget what the initial sequence was, but I know during the Portland game is when that first started to flare up. So picking up those 3 fouls in those 13 minutes, and he was laboring quite a bit out there. So that is one of the essential glue pieces for the Zags, and he was out of the equation. And yet you mentioned like guys like Davis Vogel were stepping up. I thought Emmanuel Inocente had a great first half. I thought that really stood out when it got to it and why the Zags had the lead. And like you mentioned, Adam Miller, I think I forgot who posted about it. I think it might have been Andy Patton saying he scored 16 of the last 21 points for the Zags, which is just insane to me because when you think of what Graham Mike does and he had the stellar first half, it was kind of really the host of others who kind of brought him home. Really, at least for me, that's kind of what stood out. And then at least in the grand scope of things, like they didn't get a whole lot from Braden Smith. They didn't get a ton, but they got enough from Mario Saint-Superi. I think really it was the forwards that won the game for the Zags, and really dating all the way back into Inocente, dating into Adam Miller, acknowledging while he plays in the backcourt mostly. Tyon Grant Foster because of his positional size, and Davis Vogel. Like those guys won the game for the Zags, and I think it's exactly what Mark Few and company brought in Tyon Grant Foster to do. This is the one of the few games this season where, for the most part, his game was pretty linear. Like aside from some missed free throws and I think one bad pass in the second half, Tyon Grant Foster looked like GCU Grant Foster, and that was Santa Clara had no answers. They could not stay in front of him, even when they gave him space. They couldn't stay in front of him. So that, for me, it's all those other guys who got in on the party, all those other guys who contributed to winning, whether it be scoring, defending, deflection, steals. They did enough. Santa Clara, while they didn't give the ball away at will, 12 turnovers, I think it was the timeliness of those turnovers that really stunted them in trying to sustain some momentum. I liked what I saw from some of the Bronco role players. I thought Cherry Darlin actually had a pretty good game. Wish I had saw more of him in the second half. KJ Cochran, again, another good game. Also wish I had seen more from him in the second half. They just didn't get on the floor in the second half really at all. So that was a kind of puzzling in a certain sense. This is one of the few games where the Broncos are, I don't know if force is the right word, but they do end up playing Buki Aboye and Allen Graves together. And other matchups, that doesn't really happen. So Graves fouls out. He has a game where I think he could have done a lot better. And Buki Aboye, I thought, actually played probably his best game of the season. Now, obviously, the 66 points in the paint won't kind of dictate the terms of that. But when you look at kind of some of the other games in which he plays and some of the other ways in which he gets in foul trouble and all that, and I think he played his most minutes of the season this past game against the Zags. He played to the tune of 30 minutes, which is he averages only about 18 a game. So at least for me, I thought he played inspired, and especially to start, but ultimately just not enough. Too many guys for the Zags getting their hands in the cookie jar and contributing to winning.
I mean, Tyon Grant Foster in that second half was just, you're right. That was Grand Canyon Grant Foster that we saw. And I thought it was funny because, I mean, on Saturday, we were talking about the preview, talking about this matchup. And one of the things that I think we focused on was how was Gonzaga going to handle Allen Graves. we didn't really discuss how was Santa Clara going to handle Tyon Grant Foster, and the answer was, well, they're not.
No.
Because that was the vintage look that I think that you need to see from him going, especially down the stretch here, heading into the NCAA tournament. That's what you want to see from a Tyon Grant Foster, because that's the guy who could get them to not only second weekend, but deeper and deeper into the tournament. Still, of course, not knowing what's going to be happening with Braden Smith at this stage, but seeing that from Grant Foster was a good sign for the Zags. Now, on the other team that's been in this mix, obviously with this means Gonzaga takes over first place, Santa Clara does slide to second, but the team just behind both of them is St. Mary's, and they went out to Pacific, and it was a little shaky in that first half as actually Pacific had a lead at the break, but a big run right out the gate, and St. Mary's was able to pull this one out really on the back of Palace Morauskas. He had 32 points, 27 of them in the second half. And this was one of those games I saw, like, after we were done with the live, the concern of, like, is this a quote trap game for St. Mary's? Now, I wouldn't say wasn't a trap game, because Pacific's in fourth place. It's no trap if you're playing the fourth place team. But St. Mary's, this was not going to be an easy one. Like, Pacific has played well at home. They have rebounded it well all year long. They rebounded it pretty well in Saturday's matchup. St. Mary's took a lot of threes that probably should not have taken in this one, which kind of helped Pacific kind of stick around in this one. They're 8 for 27 from distance, but this was really just kind of one of those great performances from Rouse. 32 points, which is a career high, 15 rebounds. That second half, like, he was just not going to let St. Mary's lose that game the other night, and it keeps them pace with what Gonzaga is doing and what Santa Clara is doing. They are now only one game back of the Zags as we are hitting this final stretch where we have 2 weeks left. Santa Clara with 3 games left, both Gonzaga and St. Mary's with 4 games left, and we are now into the territory of scoreboard watching and really starting to map out tiebreakers, scenarios, because everything's kind of in play right now for what we're going to see down the stretch between these two. And it's always one of those things when I start to like do this mapping out, like, and everything else, like, I feel like I need like the red string or whatnot to do all the level of, like, if this happens, that happens, if this one is connected here, that's connected here, and all that sort of stuff. These three, nothing is decided. Even though Gonzaga leapfrogged Santa Clara and is now in first place, we are far from done. These three are going to need every last win the rest of the way, and there are still possibilities for any one of these three to be the first place team, and there's still scenarios for any one of these three to end up in third place and playing in the semis or in the quarterfinals rather than the semis.
Yeah, to start with the St. Mary's Pacific game, in the bits and spurts, I was actually able to catch it on, given some of the other things that were happening Saturday night. I like the fact that you mentioned, like, Morauskas just said, I'm not letting us lose. And I think when you look at the Player of the Year award and kind of the back and forth that's been through the conference slate, it's a 2-horse race. EK Morauskas, and Morauskas, that's a dominant performance, putting the team on your back. That is probably one of the few things we had been waiting for in this type of battle, where EK had won the head-to-head when the Zags played the Gales up in Spokane. Kind of what has happened when EK's played the Broncos versus when Morauskas had his one crack at the Broncos. This was kind of one of Paulus's, I would argue, his signature moments. And you mentioned Pacific, not being a trap game. I also agree with that. Like, this isn't your older brother's Pacific. Like, this is a team that you have to dedicate the resources to, dedicate the scout to, dedicate your time to, and you're not just going to walk in, throw up some BS in Stockton and win. Like, that's Alex G. Spano Center is a hard place to play this season. And St. Mary's, they got dragged into the mud a little bit that first half. You mentioned the shot selection. I'll mention the rebounding keys that you mentioned. Pacific and their marksmanship is not really the right word, but their ability to grind on the defensive glass and kind of sticking with St. Mary's pretty much the whole time in doing so. I think that deserves an immense shout, because that's a notable sign of development for Pacific. Like, what can you do versus the rest of the conference versus what can you do against the Broncos, the Gales, and the Zags? And I think Pacific on the board says they've met the task, and now it's important to try and kind of build on it going forward. St. Mary's just doing what they do in terms of grinding people down on defense, forcing more turnovers than their season average. I think that really stymied Pacific. And then I will sing the praises of Josh Denton this one. I thought composure wise, I think that was one where it's just another notch in the right direction, at least for me. Like it's one of those things where you look at him on the margins, and I think that was another step in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, another note for that game, and I think it can't go unnoticed because we talked a little bit about how St. Mary's was going to try to match up with Elias Ralph, and that was Dylan Shaw taking the bulk of that assignment. Elias Ralph finished with 17 points and 12 rebounds, but that was 5 for 15 from the floor. He turned him into a volume shooter and made it pretty difficult on him in that one. And like Shaw was 1 for 8. He didn't have a great night offensively, but defensively is where he has been kind of made his name, I think, throughout the course of the year. And he was put on their Pacific's best player and turned him into a volume shooter. And I think that's what you hope to get out of performance like that, because he's going to score at some point. You just got to make it more challenging and make him take more shots to be able to get to his normal total. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday.
Yeah, he did. And I think what kind of going forward, kind of what stands out almost above all else is, how much I've sung the praises of Dylan Shaw on this show, and rightfully so. It's, you think of what he kind of does in terms of the catch and shoot game and this kind of differing priorities for different games. So sticking him on Elias Ralph, and yes, okay, you quote unquote sacrificed his offense in that game with kind of the amount of running around you have to do in chasing Elias Ralph. But I think you consider everything that you just mentioned with the volume shooting and putting Ralph in different predicaments. And it's so much to be said, not even for yourself missing shots, but if you just feed Elias Ralph into the big fellas with Wessels and McKeever to alter those shots in a vacuum, that's also a successful defensive possession. So I thought Dylan Shaw and Josh Dent on the margins more than anything. I think that's kind of what stood out. I know Dent had 17 shots to get those 15 points, but when you look at everything else, the 5 steals, and again, another game where he's not turning the ball over despite playing the full 40 minutes. I think that's it's an earmark for what Randy Bennett wants in his future point guard.
I mean, also you look at the minutes played in this one. Randy Bennett has shored up that short rotation at this point. You had 5 players with 6 players with double-digit minutes played, and then you had Campbell with 8 and Uzenis with 3. You can see this is very typical of a Randy Bennett team. As we get closer and closer to March, that rotation gets real small. And so we're seeing that again. You mentioned Josh Dent 40 minutes, Dylan Shaw 40 minutes in that one. So it's going to be heavy logged minutes the rest of the way. And of course, we know this team plays both Santa Clara and Gonzaga next week. So this is that we're in the crunch time. We're in they're probably not going to leave the floor anytime soon with these last few, and especially considering each of these games really does carry a lot of weight because St. Mary's is still, they're not on the bubble, but a bad performance, bad loss here or there is immediately puts them back squarely on the bubble. So there is no room for error. There's no room to really mess around at this point in the season. And there's no room for error because of what it means for a team that, well, hey, they're still the defending champs, and they still have a path to reclaim their WCC championship. Now, I will say for St. Mary's, it's pretty slim at this point because of what else has to happen. Not only do they have to play well, they have to hope that Gonzaga and Santa Clara also don't do well over the next couple weeks. Because looking at that 1 seed line, there's a few different scenarios. Each of the 3 have an opportunity to still claim the 1 seed. There is still that opportunity for all of them. Now, Gonzaga being right there right now at 13-1, they're in the driver's seat. The 2 ways they can get there, or at least of the 2 ways they can get there, they can win 3 of their last 4 games, or they need to win 2 of their last 4 games and then have Santa Clara and St. Mary's each lose 1 more contest. Because St. Mary's and Santa Clara do play each other, so at least that one of them will be taken care of next week, but they would need one of the others to do so as well. Santa Clara, they can still clinch the 1 seed, but now because of the season sweep that Gonzaga now holds, and they hold the tiebreaker in the head-to-head, they're going to need be a full game better than Gonzaga the rest of the way. So that means that Santa Clara is going to have to probably win their final 3, and Gonzaga is going to have to lose 2 of their final 4 games, which
easy, so easy.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they still play St. Mary's in Moraga. They do play USF at Chase Center this week. So there's maybe that opportunity that this could actually maybe still in play again. We'll see. The other scenario is for St. Mary's, which for them, it's kind of similar. They need to win their final 4 games and have Gonzaga lose both. They have to have Gonzaga lose 2 more times, which of course they control one of those matchups. But then they also have to hope that Gonzaga loses 1 more time to one of their final 3 other opponents, which again could be USF, could be Pacific. We'll see if there is any slip up from the Zags. I don't necessarily anticipate that, but
the disrespect to the Portland Pilots. Come on, Zach.
I think Portland might be in trouble in that one.
We'll see.
Portland on the road, not great to begin with. Zags with revenge on their mind. Yikes.
We'll wait and see. But I think the thing is about all these different teams, before you get into the Broncos situations, like the leverage is not that high for both the Gales and the Broncos alike, because you're forcing the Zags to kind of have another screw up in the vein of the Portland game. And that's just not – I think that was kind of the wake-up call they kind of needed when they were screwing around with some other games this season where they ended up winning close. You actually have to get bitten to know what it's like to suffer those consequences. And when we look at everything else, I think that's just really, it's just name of the game is leverage. And both teams are really have it. And I think St. Mary's more than anything with this specific upcoming week, Randy Bennett teams they're not going to look teams over, especially with Santa Clara and Gonzaga in the distance, because Seattle U and Washington State, they are capable teams. Like, are they going to go out and they're going to beat you by 50? No. But are they capable of you to go 1 of 20 from 3? Yes, they are. And I think St. Mary's just needs to stay on their P's and Q's, kind of like what they did in the second half against Pacific, albeit that being the Morauskas show, but just in general, showcasing just more of that road poise that they have shown on a year-over-year basis for a decade plus.
And thinking about this, it's also looking at the tiebreaker scenarios, because really, like, that's where a lot of these potential scenarios start to lead out. Like, this and this have to happen, and also this and this have to happen because of the tiebreakers. Gonzaga holds the tiebreaker right now over both Santa Clara because they swept the season series, and currently over St. Mary's because they have won the only matchup. Now, even if they were to then split the 2 matchups, Gonzaga still actually holds the tiebreaker over St. Mary's, because then the next slot down would be your head-to-head against everybody else in the conference. The next one down would be Santa Clara. And guess what? St. Mary's already has a loss to Santa Clara, so immediately it's the Zags. So this is why, like, Santa Clara or St. Mary's to leapfrog the Zags would have to be a full game better than Gonzaga to be able to finish higher than them, or seed higher than them, I should say, for the WCC tournament. As of right now, I mean, the split for Santa Clara and St. Mary's belongs to Santa Clara because they won the first matchup. Of course, they will play each other next week. And if obviously Santa Clara wins and they hold the tiebreaker, that's as simple as that. If St. Mary's wins that one, they're split at the head-to-head. Then we start to kind of look at what everything else happens. And of course, what happens against Gonzaga could be the telling sign one way or the other if St. Mary's wins that one. But if the head-to-head's the same against Gonzaga, it's looking at that net number, and right now it's St. Mary's is going to win that tiebreaker as well. So Santa Clara is kind of in the tough position in the tiebreaker scenarios because they potentially won't own any of the tiebreakers against either of these 2 opponents. So it's a dicey situation to potentially still be in the semifinal round. But these next couple weeks are going to obviously decide all of that. And Santa Clara this week needs to just continue to do what they've done really all conference play along, and that's handle your business against everybody else, and then be prepped and ready for when you face St. Mary's next week.
Well, but you got to take advantage of USF first. I mean, I think the thing is you can't overlook anyone. I think that goes for both the Gales and the Broncos in that regard. You can't look ahead. You're only doing yourself a disservice. And we mentioned how kind of weird it is when you play a team only once and this late in the season. I'm interested to see how Santa Clara responds from the sense of they get the bye, this late in the season. They get a week to kind of simmer, process, respond. The Gonzaga loss up towards USF at the Hilltop, and the Dons, not an easy week whatsoever, coming off the win against San Diego, where they had a torrid second half on offense to eventually get that done with 4 15-plus point scorers. But now they have the week where they thought maybe this would be the year where they could turn the difference on the margins. Obviously, has not turned out that way. They have Gonzaga at Chase Center Wednesday. They have Santa Clara at the Hilltop Saturday. So that's going to be it's a big week for the Broncos in that regard in terms of their response. First and foremost has to be the Dons. They've had some bad bounces, for lack of a better phrase, at War Memorial the last few years. So they got to find a way to get the ship righted on there, especially because you lose to the Dons, well, you're getting ready to shift your cards to Vegas once again. So that has to be the utmost importance. And for the Gales, I think for Randy Bennett and company, they'll be fine. I think CLU and Washington State, while capable teams, St. Mary's does what they do. They'll get that 8 to 12 point win, potentially more, and go out and do their business as they usually do. And you mentioned the short rotation that Bennett is employing. Mark Few also getting into that department as well after what we saw this past Saturday at the Levy Center. So all these teams starting to really put together their last deck of cards that they can play.
Yeah, I mean, these games coming up on Wednesday there's a lot riding on a lot of these. Seattle U still trying to kind of climb back into that middle of the pack, which they're still trying to play their way out of being in that opening day matchups. And Pacific is heading up to Washington State, and we'll talk to Coach Dave Smart in a bit. But that's a matchup that also, again, Pacific has not played particularly well. They haven't had the results on the road. They've had some close calls away from home that just haven't quite gone their way. And they're playing a Washington State team where we have seen some really good and we have seen some really bad. And they did get the reprieve over the weekend. So Washington State has had some breathing room to be able to get ready for Pacific this week, especially that's coming off the loss to Gonzaga where they lost by 30. So this Cougar team really did need to kind of have a bit of a reset, be able to kind of get back into a flow because we know they're dangerous, especially at home. Like we know that Ace Class can go off for 30. We know that we've seen some really good moments from Jerome Morton. We've seen some good moments from Yalaho. Like we've seen it from this Washington State team, but it's whether or not they can keep it. Can they do it on a consistent basis? And we just haven't seen that yet from Washington State. And this Pacific team, as they rebound it well, they play defense well. How well they're able to take it on the road and be able to do it up at the Palouse is going to be critical. I mean, again, I think a lot of the focus is just going to be that. It's like how well they can control the glass. And then that should lead to at least some better looks on the offensive end.
Yeah, it should. And then I think going back to even further into the file for the Tigers in the sense of this is one where we mentioned what we talked about when we discussed with Dave Smart, going back to what he mentioned in a bit of a sneak preview sort of sense, that first weekend on the road to start conference play at San Diego and LMU is one where it kind of got away from them. It's like they weren't playing their best. And now hopefully that game recently against Pepperdine is kind of more of an imprint of what it actually means as now they head up to the Pacific Northwest. And this is where you can get the separation because, yes, while it's a very difficult last 3 games for the Tigers, no doubt about that. If you can get Washington State, that one really, not that it buys you a lot of leeway, so to speak, but it lets you relax a little bit more for the Gonzaga game, knowing that you have USF on the horizon, that you can control your own destiny that way. And then conversely, I think for Washington State, like you'd have to, this is when you're going to want, because now you're in like that 6 to 8 battle. Now you're starting to wait to see what your staggered start is like. And, we haven't mentioned Oregon State yet, but they had a chance to kind of stay within that. And then they lost at Seattle U, scoring at 18 points in the first half. That's just not going to do it. But credit to the Redhawks for putting the Beavers on the back foot. Inevitably, too many road wins were cashed in for the Beavers on that one to this point in the season. But yeah, Seattle U, I think, again, I will always sing the praise of how capable they are. I think they're a better team than their record shows. I think you would tend to agree with that too. So I think it's a big week for many teams, and I think especially for Pacific, among others.
And I mean, And obviously, like we've kind of touched on it, and it's to mention obviously Gonzaga's matchup with USF on Wednesday as well. That's going to be at the Chase Center. I mean, the Dons, like after they're like short of like embarrassing loss against Oregon State, they bounced back, went on the road, and got a win at San Diego. So like they're feeling at least a little bit better about themselves. But something, I mean, at least to note is like you looked at the fact that Tyrone Riley did not play in that game, and what does that necessarily mean for this coming week? I mean, this USF is, it feels like they've never kind of had their full deck of cards all year long. There's always kind of been one piece missing one way or another. And this, you have to be kind of all hands on deck against Gonzaga. And this being the final time that Gonzaga will be heading down to play USF. Sure, it won't be the last time they play at Chase Center, but it will probably be the last time they're playing USF, at least for a while. I mean, this is obviously it's a golden opportunity, and we saw like how they near missed at the Kennel and what they could have done in that one. But of course, that was a game where there was no Graham Ike either. That was no Ike and no Huff, and they just missed being able to pull the upset there. This game, Ike being back, the way he's been playing, I think the one thing that maybe be able to, and we've seen it from time to time, that USF is going to have to do is they're going to have to shoot it well from three. That has kept them in a lot of these games. And if they can do that on the Chase Center floor, it will at least give them a decent shot to stick with them. I mean, but I'm leaning heavily that the Zags are going to take care of business on Wednesday. And I'm almost just hoping that this doesn't end up lopsided, which we've seen 2 times in this building.
Yeah, I fully agree. Especially you've seen this kind of matchup take place in a similar movie rerun a certain amount of times. When you think of USF does well enough, they even sometimes may have a halftime lead against the Zags, and then the second half, Zags just do enough to win by about 10 to 14 points. And then that's that. They kind of put their imprint on the game. And you mentioned kind of the differentiation when it comes to the Chase Center games. Yeah, I think I thought there would be more leverage for the Dons having played there earlier and having an understanding of like the depth perception in the arena and like the background and all that when it comes to shooting the basketball. Has not been the case. Gonzaga has been the more dominant team pretty much in all of the matchups at Chase Center, and it hasn't done as much good other than the ticket revenue for the Dons. So I expect the Zags to take control. I expect them to win going away in this matchup, and we'll see. But I mean, you have to play the game for a reason, but that's just one guy's prognostication.
And do want to like I don't want to overlook like amongst the matchups, amongst what we've been talking about, that Pepperdine won on Saturday.
They did.
I actually missed the fact that the way in the PCH challenge, LMU and Pepperdine won. That first half was a track meet. This was a high scoring game between these two, and Pepperdine was able to pull out a victory in this one on a last moment dunk from Stefan Sisic. There was I think with only just a few seconds left in that one. They just it was exciting to see that Pepperdine could get off the mat and have a really good performance against their not quite cross town, but like the coast rival in LMU, because this was they needed a win like this. Like they needed to kind of like be able to kind of feel a little bit better about themselves, get off the mat, because everyone has kind of wrote them off, and performance after performance, it was kind of like, this isn't looking great. It's not looking good. And they go in and get this win 90-89 against LMU. Aaron Clark had 33, and we've seen him explode a few different times throughout the course of the year. So I didn't want to like finish this off and not make sure we talked about what Pepperdine was able to accomplish over the weekend.
Yeah, a massive credit to that. And I think for the Waves, especially, you're trying to look for those small things that kind of move the needle. And I think not that the season was already off the tracks for LMU, but now it's kind of quote unquote, it can be ruined, from certain people's perspective. Like Pepperdine did they played up to the moment and they continued to play poised, and especially coming off some of the more recent performances, especially when Pacific kind of took them to the woodshed at home. It's like, okay, what are you going to respond with? And I thought Pepperdine like you mentioned, the pace. I mean, it was relentless. LMU just had no answers. They really haven't. And I think it's been one of those things where we look at the Lions all here. It's like, man, we want to kind of enjoy you, and we just haven't. Like it's for one reason or another, they just can't get it fixed, can't get all the right answers. And full credit to Pepperdine for pretty much consistently applying the pressure and eventually coming out the other side with the win. Was not easy. Obviously, you mentioned the walk-off dunk with about 10 seconds left. So credit to the Waves for doing so. And maybe it turns the corner into one of those runs you can make late in the regular season in terms of just playing actual better basketball. We'll see. I'm not expecting them to be kind of the team that makes the run in the Orleans arena like last year. But I think just in a vacuum, it's a feel-good moment and one I think the program needed this season.
Yeah, I mentioned that first half. It was 56-54 at the half. There was no defense to be played in that first half.
We were out there at the 24-hour fitness playing defense.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what it felt like. That's what it looked like. But a fun one in Malibu on Saturday for them to get that one. They were the early contest on over the weekend. And as we wrap it up, we're going to wrap it up with the interview to head coach Dave Smart. As we kind of head out thinking about Pacific, I mean, this is a team, this is a squad that, like, I mean, a year ago, this was a team dead in the water. We didn't know exactly what to think of them going into the Dave Smart era. And they have, I think, you can't say they haven't exceeded expectations. The fact that we're only like 2 seasons into this and they are a borderline top 100 team shortly after being one of the worst teams in all of college basketball.
Yeah, no, I mean, when you talk about turnarounds, and in this interview, he cites kind of some of the metrics that we've been talking about in terms of like the Ken Palm turnaround. I think that's when you look at the magnifying glass and see, okay, just how much Pacific has actually grown as a program. And I think for me, I've said it incessantly in this episode, it's people actually have to take dedicated time to playing Pacific now. It's not, I'm going to go show up and I'm going to win. It's, no, Pacific is a team that if we're not on our at minimum B+ game, we are going to lose and we are going to get pounded. Like, you don't come with the right effort, you're going to get run out of the gym. And there are some teams that have been run out of the Alex G. Spano Center this season. So at least for me, I look at Dave Smart and I think when you look at pillars of a program, the effort's there. You look at the results on the uptick. And I think going forward, he mentioned that he's not on the level of St. Mary's, Santa Clara yet, but you can tell he's striving towards it. And that's kind of like he relishes that challenge in doing so. So a massive credit to getting the Tigers competitive in Stockton, because I think when you think of the Northern California basketball scene, sometimes Pacific does get lost in the shuffle. It's cool to see them kind of join the party alongside St. Mary's, Santa Clara. Well, hopefully it continues upward along that trend and can be kind of stake the claim as in the years to come in the WCC as kind of like that little bubble, and hopefully kind of maybe a join. Maybe we can have a NorCal Classic, or maybe I'll talk to Rocco, get like a NorCal Classic at the Chase Center, get like Pacific, Santa Clara, St. Mary's, Cal, Stanford, San Jose State, USF, yep. Whoever. How many people can we get in the Chase Center on 1 or 2 days notice? So, but a massive credit to Dave Smart in doing so, because it's not easy to build a program in Stockton, and he's doing it just like he has at every other stop he's done.
17-11 this season. Final 3 games at Washington State, at Gonzaga, home for USF. There is a possible scenario that this could be a 20-win Pacific team just 2 years after being what was it, like a 5-win team? Like, this is the turnaround has been massively impressive for what they've done to this point. And they are a program as you've mentioned, you cannot sleep on them. You have to be ready for them. So let's get into the interview with Dave Smart. And so we're gonna sign off. This is a pre-recorded interview. So thanks to everybody for watching. That's Thomas. I'm Zach. So we'll bring in Dave Smart, and he will take us the rest of the way. All right. Well, happy to welcome in Pacific head coach Dave Smart. His Tigers are currently sitting in 4th place, 17-11 overall, 8-7 in West Coast Conference play. But before we get into basketball, we were talking about the Olympics off air, and just thinking about like what sort of events are you paying attention to in the Winter Olympics, if you are at all? Know like the Canadian hockey teams are going to be up both today and on Wednesday, but are there any of the other events you kind of like make sure you're clued into?
I mean, not really. The hockey for sure, because I worked with the Sens for the 4 years. So, I mean, ironically, I'm Canadian and following the Canadian team, and but really probably following the American team more with Brady Tkachuk, and just because I was with him for 4 years, and um, other than men's hockey, I was saying to my wife that the Olympics is kind of, with all the TV coverage of all the sports and everything going on, I'm old as dirt, so it's lost its luster since I was a kid, which was 100 years ago. So it's not the same as it was for my kids at their age. Like they're in grade 7, grade 10. Like it's not the same for them as it was when I was that age.
No, I think, yeah, we were just kind of like spinning around, because there's usually like some of the events that we don't get to see very often, or like, oh yeah, it looks like we get to see, like we were talking about the cross country events, and we're talking about just some of the others that happened during the Winter Olympics, even like during the Summer Olympics, which actually will be here in the States in a couple of years, and just kind of the random ones there. But kind of getting back to the team where you kind of see your guys are right now. I mean, has it kind of met your expectation of where you thought this team would be at this stage? I mean, like sitting in 4th place in the WCC, coming off a year where obviously there was going to be a lot of growing pains, and you had going into this year a roster that you felt a lot better about. Has it kind of met the expectations, or to an extent have they maybe exceeded a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big goal person other than just trying to get better every day. I mean, I know it's cliche, but it's kind of, you try to focus on the day as opposed to the long term as much as possible, and just get better. I mean, if you had have told me we'd have 17 wins at this point, I'd say, man, I'd be thrilled. I like it's the WCC is so tough. The league is so tough. I mean, every game we scout for, I'm going, like, the talent level is off the charts, and you know, you try to figure out how you're going to win a game, let alone win 8 games in this league, and then you get 8, and you're looking back and you're going, how'd that happen? I mean, I'm happy with where we're at. I really like how hard our guys have played. I think we've kind of taken the approach with the portal that getting guys trying to get guys who personality wise fit what we want to do day in, day out, you know, and in terms of work ethic and in terms of fight. And, you know, I mean, it's not for me every night, but I think, you know, for the most part, our guys have really fought for each other. And, you know, you take that chance with seniors that they either come in and they're looking out for number one, and it can become a bit of a nightmare if you don't get the right personalities, or you bring them in and they just care about their last year being a great year from a team perspective and from a commitment to each other perspective. And, you know, how you recruit them, I think, has an effect on that. Like you sort of say, like, if you're coming to make it about you in your last year, you're not going to play. I mean, as soon as we see signs of that, you're not going to play, so don't come here. So I think we got veteran guys who wanted to make it about the team, and they really have. And I mean, they've played hard and they've tried, and, you know, it seems so simple, but man, if you try every possession, you tend to have a chance.
You talked about that senior kind of leadership, in addition to having guys be alongside Elias Ralph, the guys I kind of want to spotlight from what you just mentioned, TJ Wainwright, Jaden Clayton, Justin Rochlin. How have you ultimately seen that difference kind of play out from last season at the end of the WCC tournament, where my impression was that you were kind of excited to see how I think the program would respond, how you would personally respond? How have you seen kind of that experience kind of take shape for the better over the course of the time that you were recruiting those 3 seniors, transfers, and then eventually into this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're super fortunate that Eli came back. I mean, he's just a good guy, and he's a good player, obviously, but he's a really good person. I mean, he he's brought us so much in the 2 years he's been here, and I think we've helped him. I mean, in terms of some of the things that he struggles with, I think we've helped him grow in. And but I mean, having him here has been huge for just kind of almost a grounding place for all the guys who are new. And then obviously the veteran guys, like Jaden's been unbelievable. Like he's about winning, and it was a big jump from where he was to the WCC. The WCC is a big jump for most people. I mean, just because it's so old and the coaches are so good. Like, not that other conferences aren't, but man, like you gym after gym, you've got guys who are either Hall of Famers or have been Power Four guys and know what it looks like and have been doing it for a long time. And so it's a big jump for players when they're coming to this league, because it's not just the players you're playing against, it's the tacticians behind them too. And he's been unbelievable. And his leadership's been great, and he's just team first. And then Justin, obviously, he won a lot, so he knows what it looks like, and he knows the toughness side. And I just think the others, like TJ, has really fit in. He's really bought into trying to defend and rebound at a high level, and I think it's allowed me to keep him on the floor a lot more than I thought I was going to keep him on the floor at the start of the year, or even coming in. Like, I knew I would play him because he extends the floor and he can really score. It's not that he can score. But I was worried how much, I could keep him on the floor and win games defensively, past sort of 20 minutes. And he's just bought into really working at that part of his game. And I mean, he's not Bruce Bowen, but he doesn't think he is either. But he's done a lot of really good things, which has allowed us to keep him on the floor. And again, for us, winning and losing, a lot of it, I mean, I hope he doesn't hear this, because he's such a good kid. He worries so much about everything, but it comes down to Isaac Jack. I mean, when he's good, we're really tough. When he's not his best, and again, he's really never played. I mean, he hasn't played a lot of basketball. He started late. He really hasn't played a lot of basketball games. So when it starts racing with him, he doesn't have a base. But man, when he's been locked in and focused, we're really hard to play against. And he's been really good against really good players, like power four guys. And when we've played those types of teams, he's been good.
I mean, kind of even thinking about it, I mean, the game the other night against St. Mary's, where you guys were in at the first half, you had the lead there. And of course, like, kind of St. Mary's kind of does what St. Mary's does in the second half and really kind of leaned on you guys, and Palis Morauskas just kind of absolutely just went off. But thinking about because I felt going into that game, like, if you guys were able to rebound it well and kind of play your game, you would be in it from the get-go, and you guys were. I think that was one of the things that stood out to me in that matchup. And kind of just seeing kind of the growth of this group, because again, you mentioned just like how well you guys have been playing against some better teams. You have Gonzaga coming up this week, which obviously is going to be a massive test. When you think about just like what has kind of kept you guys in games, it feels like that the defensive rebounding for the most part this year has been what has kept you up. And then of course, like, over the course of the off season, and one of the emphasis was getting a little bit more offense, and you guys have been able to do that. Hitting the road for the next couple, what are you kind of looking at to be able to kind of get your guys to be a little bit more consistent once you leave the Spano Center? Because you guys have been great at home, and it's been a little bit more of a challenge once you've hit the road.
Yeah, I mean, we played well at Pepperdine. I mean, they gave us some problems home, and we played well there. I think we've had trouble. We had two bad ones at the start of the league at San Diego and LMU. Actually, it wasn't that bad. We were winning with 3 minutes or 4 minutes left, but I didn't feel like we were playing very well. Saturday was a good test. We're just not like those teams are really good, and it was a 1-point game with 7 minutes left, and the bottom line is they're really well coached and they're really good and they've got a great player, and they bullied us in the second half. I mean, and I say that in a complimentary way. They bullied us in the second half, and we didn't respond the way we've been responding normally. And we also, we turned it over 15 times against a team that only creates 10 turnovers against them a game. Like they're not a team that goes out and tries to create turnovers. And when we take care of the ball, we generally win. When we don't take care of the ball, we like most teams, we generally lose. But that's a team that I kind of felt like we could take care of the ball without really having to change a whole lot, and we didn't. And that hurt us. And I mean, you got to give them credit. We're thrilled with what we've done. I mean, we've gone from being a year ago, like almost exactly a year ago, 309 in Kempong, and now we got to 103. I think we're 105 now. Like we've gone up 200 spots. I mean, no one in college basketball has done that. Now, in fairness, some teams have had great years and improved a ton, but they were already pretty good. Like they were already in the 150s or 160s. So their jump has been as impressive as our jump. It's even though the numbers, like number of places you jump, isn't the same because we came from a long way. But you look at it and you go, we were 358 when we got here. We're at 105 now. It's been a year, and it's been basically a year and 8 months. We're thrilled with that, but we're not where we want to be. I mean, I don't know if it's the wrong thing to say, but we're not where Gonzaga, like we're not at that level. We're not at Gonzaga's level. We're not, and I get they leave our league, but we're not at Santa Clara's level. We're not at St. Mary's level. We're not there yet. And like we still at St. Mary's at home. I mean, it wasn't at their place. And now, in fairness, they're an hour and 20 minutes away, and they bring as many people to our game as we do because they're so close. And I think their fans travel pretty well within the Bay Area. So it wasn't like it was loud for them too, but it was still at home. So we're realistic about the fact that we want to be at Santa Clara's level. We want to be at St. Mary's level. We want to be a favorite to win the conference, and we're not there yet. And no one would expect us to be there in less than 2 years. They have great coaches. They have great programs. They've got great stability. We have gotten where we've gotten because the president and my athletic director and my staff and myself, I guess, have worked so hard to make Pacific a factor in basketball and the WCC. And it like in this world with the portal and NIL and whatever rev share, it's your boosters, everybody. It's a group project. It's not. You don't just find a head coach and get it done because the rules are the same everywhere across the board. It's just not that way anymore. So for me to be so proud about where we've gone and not acknowledge the president, not acknowledge the athletic director, not acknowledge our boosters, that would be crazy because they're a huge part of it. And it as an old guy, like do I love the landscape? No. I mean, I coached at a 4 or 5 year institution where there were no scholarships, and it was all about relationships and development. And I love that. So I miss that, but it is what it is. This is what the world is. I'm not going to complain about it. We're just going to work with it. I mean, I think it's awesome for the players from a financial standpoint. I think it's horrible for the players from a life standpoint and from a development standpoint. I mean, I was talking to someone and they were asking me about retention and how hard it is in the WC to retain your guys, because if they don't play, there's 26 conferences below us that they could go find minutes at. Mm-hmm. If they play a lot and put up good numbers, like Lamar, last minute, someone's going to come in and offer $1 million, and like he's in my office crying because we have a relationship. He came with me from Tech. I gave him the ball. He's close to my kids, close to my family. He's crying. I'm going, you can't pass up that much of a difference in money. Like that, you're never going to make that play in this game again. There's no hard feelings between me and him because but that's the reality. But on the other hand, when people go into the portal all the time, it's like if our season ends, say mid-March, they could be on our campus working with all the facilities we have for 3 months or 2 months till mid-May, till school's done. Like just getting better. And we can be in the gym, not a lot, but enough that we can show them exactly what to do properly in their workouts and care at a level because they're coming back that you're really spending the time to show them what they need to do in their time, and they're going to get better. They throw their name in the portal. Well, I mean, I'm not that guy. I don't do that. You're in the portal. You don't touch anything I'm not like they played for us. I'm not going to do that. But I also don't have time to spend a whole lot of energy like watching and helping them develop when I got to get new players. So these guys who play 4 years and go to 4 different schools, they finish in mid-March and then they're not with the next team until mid-June. Every year, and then they're reestablishing their role, their situation. They don't develop. Like people wonder why people don't develop. It's like you look at the St. Mary's guys and you go, "Man, Dent's so good." Well, no wonder he's good. He's smart. He stayed where he's supposed to stay, and he's gotten better. They've worked with him all year. Like they've developed him. If he came from somewhere else. No disrespect, I don't want to, but Duckett came from San Diego and Dent stayed at St. Mary's, and they're both at the same school, and one was probably considered better than the other or close coming out of high school, and the other, like Dent he's a really high level player. And why? Because he's developed. If he went in the portal every year, he wouldn't be a very good player.
I mean, I think about that all the time when it comes to the teams that seem to do well, especially in the WCC. It's a lot of them have it's that retention. It's the teams who are able to keep guys around, develop their players, and have guys who are bought into the system that they're playing. And again, think about, you mentioned St. Mary's and the way they've kind of done it. I mean, Gonzaga has kind of been the same way. You think, and Grant Ike's been there, feels like forever, and he's continued to just get better and better year after year. And
no difference. I mean, they lose all these guys and everybody's going, "Oh, they're going to be bad." And I'm talking to one of their assistants who is a buddy of mine, and he's going, "I think they're going to be just as good." And they are. I mean, Hammond's really, really good because he stayed. Now, you have to have great coaches too, developing them during, St. Mary's has great coaches. So them staying with those great coaches helps. I mean, so some places, I'm not saying they don't have great coaches, but there's the coaches are on a carousel almost like the players at some levels. So, what kind of real development coaching you're getting at some places is different than other places because the coach is on a carousel. I mean, I say that I was at Tech. I loved it at Tech, loved it, but I was gone in a year, and I loved it. I mean, I say this all the time. My first 2 months with Grant was something. And then after that, it was I loved it there. I loved the staff. I loved the atmosphere. I loved Grant. I mean, I don't know who would take more offense to this, me or him, but we're so different, but we're so the same. We're both crazy. So we have a relationship that way. And I think he'd go, "Don't tell anybody I'm like you." And there's days where, but but I was gone and I loved it. I left after a year and couldn't have enjoyed my last 4 months there more.
So when you take a look at I hear a lot of what you're saying about the way this program is being built at Pacific. And I've been joking with people this isn't your older brother's Pacific anymore. This is someone you have to take seriously. You have to invest a real amount of time into. And you're not just going to walk into the Spano Center or go willy-nilly throw up some BS playing basketball and still win. Pacific is currently a program where you have to divert a ton of resources in your scout, in your preparation, and in your effort for a full 40 minutes to make sure that you can try and be in with a shot of winning. And when I look at you and your history of building programs, like this just feels like a challenge that you're relishing and trying to build Pacific. What has excited you most about building this specific program at Pacific?
I just think it's so different than what I did before. Now, it's very similar from a technical and preparation standpoint to my 18 years with the senior men's national team in Canada, where you have 2 weeks and then play a 3-week tournament. So you have no time to really do a ton. So you got to think about is that a Zags and a St. Mary's hat? I do not see it right there. Like, at least like for the show, you couldn't have flipped a Pacific hat in there.
I need something that says Pacific.
That's great. So so you're blaming me.
No.
Yeah,
it's on me because I haven't actually gotten out the Stockton. That's really what it is.
I mean, if we get to do this again, if you could just like flip one of those. I mean, the Zags are gone, so you could.
Right, no, exactly. No, like once we flip the calendar, it's like, yeah, that one's coming down. We'll be mixing some stuff up.
My ADHD kicked in there, but I mean, for me, yeah, it's a challenge because it's so different than Carleton. Like I said, from a game prep and a team prep, it's a lot of the similarities to the national team, like trying to bring a group together quick and trying to get everybody on page and trying to get everybody accepting of roles in a short period of time. It's longer than the national team, but not close to the years I had at Carleton with the same guys. And then, learning how to get the players that you need to get for the right price and the right fit year in, year out. Do I love it? No, I'm old. I don't love that part of it, but I don't mind it either because I think it's a challenge. I think it's just a new challenge to do better every single year. And I think we didn't really have any chance the first year, and I think we got fortunate that we had some connections between myself and the staff, like with Eli and Elijah Fisher and Lamar, and even Jefferson, like where we had some connections to get some talent in, but they weren't necessarily. Some of them were good fits, but they weren't. It was just a fluke. Like we brought in the talent we could bring in, and then we just tried to fill roster spots that first year. And a lot of those guys, as much as some of them really bought in, were really good guys. Like away from those top four, they weren't Division I basketball players. Like they were guys who tried hard, but they're either junior college guys now or Division II guys now. They weren't at this level. Now we had a better runway last year, and I think we did a pretty good job of getting the type of guys we wanted and the type of guys that would fit what we're trying to do. Did we do a perfect job? No, we didn't. We did a good job, but I don't think we did a perfect job. And I think we're going to try to expand on that and learn from what went well, learn from what didn't do well. Like you need some high level talent, but you need some Bronx, you need some Jaden Claytons, like you need some Isaac Jacks, you need those guys, and they make a difference in winning in a huge way. So I have embraced it. I mean, I talk to, a lot of my friends in coaching are not, because they're old too. They're either still in it and don't love it and, are upset about the landscape, or, a lot of my guys have gotten out for whatever reasons, I spent a sabbatical year with Villanova. Like a lot of guys that I'm close to in this business aren't in this business anymore. But I get it. But I've taken a different approach to it. I'm embracing it. I don't take myself too seriously. So, like all of the winning in Canada, like people make some people like justify it as not that big a deal. And I go, yeah, I agree. Some people make it a big deal. And I go, yeah, I don't agree. We just worked hard. And then you come here and it's like, we have the turnaround we have here, and you get like the one thing in the U.S. is compared to Canada. Like in Canada, they don't really like when you win a lot. Like you tend to be hated more if you win a lot. Whereas in the U.S., if you improve, everybody. But it's not. This is not me. This is our president. This is our athletic director. This is my staff. And am I a part of it? Sure. Like, do I oversee it? Do I ultimately try to, like with the basketball side of it? Yeah, but like it's just a lot of hard work and like I say this because it's funny to me because. Something happened with Grant the first couple of 3 weeks I was there. I go, yeah, I guess if we get lucky, it's not about luck. He's like, nothing's about luck. And he went off on me, and I'm going, well, fairness, I'm just kind of throwing it out. No, we don't talk about luck. And I always, in good moments, I would joke, man, that was a good win. I mean, we got lucky that so-and-so couldn't make a shot. And I would just throw it out just to, poke the bear. But like we've done a lot of good things, but you get a little lucky, like you get this recruiting thing the way it is now. Oh yeah, we were perfect in this. We knew this was going to happen. Like if we knew this was going to happen with Isaac Jack, then why did we make the mistake with someone else? Because you can go through our roster, and if you knew every sort of pay scale and everything, you could go, man, that was a hit. Man, kind of missed there. And ask me, and I go, I don't know. When we hit, we thought we were going to hit. But when we missed, we thought we were going to hit too. Like sometimes I think, love you, Grant, but I think sometimes there is a little luck in it.
Maybe one of those days we're going to have to get Grant McCaslin to talk about his favorite Dave Smart stories. But we have seen the hard work on full display. We've seen some of the winning basketball players that you've brought into the program this year. And hopefully, from the branding sake, hopefully I get a little bit of a win here today.
I couldn't see it. I was going to ask if it was a Blue Jay.
It is.
I'm actually more of a Red Sox fan.
Oh my God. All right. Well, we're gonna have to dive into that next time we get you on, because we're gonna have to go back into our AL East lore.
Gotta do some research. Give me a text message or something.
Hey, we'll do that. We'll do that next time. Trust me.
That's right. We're gonna have to talk about the Rafi Devers trade, and we'll go into that. That whole
Senator's jersey.
Well, we got to find those on the market first.
All right. We'll wrap it up here. Pacific has 3 games left in conference play on the road, both at Washington State and Gonzaga this week, before they have at least a full week off before taking off.
I don't have enough angst over this, and now you have to remind me.
That's it. And 2 teams you guys have not faced yet, so I'm like, the scouts probably gonna be at least a little interesting. We were even talking about that, like just like the difference of like what that looks like when you haven't played a team this deep into a season, especially with conference play. But I know it's going to be a test. Washington State has had their really good moments. They've had some bad moments, but you cannot take them lightly. And of course, we all know what the Zags are capable of doing, especially up at the Kennel. Thanks, Coach, for hopping on and talking Pacific and just the landscape of the sport. And we will definitely catch you down the road, and definitely we'll see you at the WCC tournament.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.